Welcome back. I am a little giddy today because we have Ciara Byrne on the podcast. Ciara is a documentary filmmaker and a dedicated social impact entrepreneur known for her incredible work with Green Our Planet. Together with her co-founder, Kim MacQuarrie, they've created one of the largest and most comprehensive school, garden, and hydroponics programs in the United States. Their mission is to provide students with the opportunity to connect with nature, learn about healthy living, and grow their own food. It's a journey that has touched the lives of over 140,000 students in 10 states and is now expanding with the support of the Obama Foundation.
In addition to her work with Green Our Planet, Ciara brings her background in television production to create educational films that enhance the learning experience for students. Her career spans from managing a film production company to producing content for major networks like PBS, National Geographic, BBC, and more. Ciara and her team are on a mission to increase joy and equity in communities by empowering people to grow food and connect with the magic and majesty of the universe. We're thrilled to have her on the show today to dive into her inspiring journey and learn more about the incredible work she's doing to make the world a better place. So, without further ado, we are welcoming Ciara to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Where to start with this? Let's go with your inspo. Let's start with your inspiration behind Green Our Planet.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for such a beautiful introduction, by the way. So the inspiration for Green Our Planet, well, essentially, I've always been very passionate about connecting to the planet. I've always been connected to nature myself. So as a kid growing up, I really struggled with anxiety and depression. And I found my solace and calm place to be outside, connecting with nature. And so I always say to people, I really understand in the very fiber of my being, in every cell of my body, how important it is for all of us to connect to the planet. And so especially students. And I say that for so many reasons, for our mental health, for happiness, for joy, for building communities, for growing healthy food, for education, for all of it. I feel like, over the last several hundred years with the Industrial Revolution, we've all moved into cities. And as a result, we ruptured humanity from our true connection to the planet. So that's my inspiration.
I'm just really excited.
You're picking me right now. There's a book called If Women Rose Rooted by Sharon Blackie.
I love that Sharon Blackie's from Ireland.
I went to a conference this past weekend and she was the keynote speaker and she spoke on that book and how we're storytellers and women, the course of history, women were the keepers of the wells. So for our listeners, sorry for that. That's going to be a little tangential, but fantastic book. And it very much aligns with what your value system is and what your vision is. So back to logistics, Green Our Planet operates in 10 states and has impacted over 140,000 students. What kind of transformations have you personally witnessed in these young minds as they engage with nature and learn about healthy living through these programs?
So I will go back to one of our core values, and I mentioned it, which is part of my inspiration, and the word is joy. I think that the world, society has lost sight of what is really important in education. If kids feel like they're being cared for and if they feel joyful at school, guess what? They're going to learn really well because they want to go to school. If they're engaged, they will learn. And so with testing and all the other things that, our society has imposed on schools, we've made it difficult for kids to be happy and engaged. And I think when you see them in the garden, there isn't an unhappy face, honestly, because they're surrounded by hummingbirds and worms and trees and butterflies. And it's so fun. So, yeah, joy.
I love that. And there's no test in the garden, right? We can just be the earth creatures we are.
Yeah, exactly. When students are in the garden, they really understand their place in the universe. And we talk about connecting to the magic and majesty of the universe a lot because, in today's, tech world and in this, tech revolution that we're in, we've lost our connection, not just to the planet, but to who we are and how we belong in the universe. And that's left a lot of us feeling kind of jittery and uneasy. And that includes our students. And when we can give them a firm grounding, literally root them, like Sharon Blackie was talking about, right? Rooting our kids to the planet, we just give them a very firm foundation to build our lives on.
We've also learned the importance of tangible, hands-on, activity-based learning, and there's so much that they can get education-wise participating in a garden.
Yeah, 100%. So like the whole country and indeed globally, education is moving towards project-based learning because the 19th century, we didn't have Google, right? We didn't have every piece of information that we need at our fingertips on a phone. But today we do. And so students don't need to remember facts, like they did say in the 1900s. They need to understand how to solve problems. And how do you solve problems? Teamwork, project-based learning, failures, successes, and all of those things. And you get that in spades in the garden, right?
Can you so you're on greenourplanet.org on your website. It talks about Green Our Planet being a nonprofit that uses the school garden and hydroponic STEM programs to teach students about sustainability and financial literacy. Can you make that connection for us?
Yeah, totally. And I will do it with great vim and vigor because I'm so excited about financial literacy. I believe the road to justice is through financial literacy. And when you look at what's happening in America today, what is so exciting to me is that we're in the middle of the green revolution. So we're moving away from the industrial revolution, we're moving into the green revolution. And as the means of production changes, we have this moment in time where people who have been disempowered or haven't had the opportunity to really rise up and have access to wealth and power, they're going to have that. And that's our kids. We predominantly serve kids in lower income communities, Title I schools, and now they have access to STEM jobs once we can get them interested. Whether it's being a conservationist, working in a solar company, whatever the job is, they're well-paying jobs. And when kids have those opportunities, they can lift up their community. Where the financial literacy piece comes in our actual program is students in 5th grade and middle and high school learn to turn their gardens and their hydroponics laboratories into businesses. So they actually write a business plan with their teacher and they figure out how much food they can sell and the pricing for the food. And they host farmers markets at their schools, but also at giant farmers markets. We had 2 last year in Las Vegas, 2 in Henderson and 1 up in Carson City. But we've also have them in rural towns and villages all across Nevada and now across the United States. So the students don't even know, we don't even say the words financial literacy. We say to them, hey, do you want to make some money? And they're like, yes, they say. And so then they learn, they write the business plan, they figure out who their customers are, how to market to them. And what's so funny from our perspective is that we didn't realize how they were going to go the extra mile. They're not just selling vegetables, but then they figure out, oh, we can make body lotion with herbs from our garden. We can make bath bombs. And then my favorite, which I pay a lot of money for, you end up paying $5 for a rock that they painted with some kind of smiley face because they're so cute. And so they're taking, anything from the rocks, they're making Christmas ornaments out of vegetables in the garden. I mean, you name it. So they're so creative and they're very enthusiastic about making money. So yeah, so that's the financial literacy piece.
So interesting too, the agency behind it. It is one thing to walk into a grocery store in the United States where shelves are lined and lined and lined with produce and you can pick and choose anything and it goes into your cart and you of course pay for it, you bring it home and eat it. It is an entirely different experience and level of responsibility and connectedness to be doing that yourself, to be growing your own food. Very cool.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing that's cool about it is there is magic in life force. So when students plant a seed and it turns into a head of lettuce or a carrot or a beet, and they see all these different seeds and they can have 30 of them in their hand, they say to us, it's like magic. It is like magic, right? And so for them, it's an exciting journey that they embark on with their teachers starting in September. They plant their fall harvest and then they end up selling it, or they make a salad for their class, or whatever it is they decide to do. And that's an exciting journey that they embark on. So much more fun than reading about photosynthesis out of a book. They're learning it through this journey, which is very powerful.
It gives me goosebumps, truly this conversation, because this is what education, to me, at my core, feels like it's supposed to be. It feels so important to teach our children important things that you are covering, like you said, problem solving, working with others, understanding a process, and what a wonderful process and cause and effect that demonstrates for children, not just in a book, but in real life. They have an investment in it. And then being able to incorporate the financial literacy to it at an age and time when they are excited. Kids are eager to participate and wanting to know how the world works, right? They seem to want that. There was that trend that was over summer, how to be a grown-up. And a lot of parents were doing how to be grown-up camp. And you've been doing this for a long time, teaching kids how to grow food, how to make money. I just think it's so amazing. And it was recognized as amazing because in 2019, you were selected as an Obama Fellow. That's a remarkable achievement. How has the support of the Obama Foundation helped you scale Green Our Planet's impact? And how has that experience been? It's been now quite a few years. How has that experience transformed your mission?
All great questions. So I think the most important thing the support of the Obama Foundation gives us, and to this day gives us, is a validation that A, what we're doing is important, but you're already sold, right? But B, that we're doing a good job. So when they set out to look for 20 leaders to select to become Obama Fellows, what they were looking for were leaders, 10 in the United States and 10 around the world, who had taken programs that were working in their community, like working locally, and they wanted to then support them to scale it across a country, around the world, whatever that looked like. And it was a very smart strategy because when you look at the landscape of the school garden movement, which has been around for a very long time, like 100 years, right? But in general, the school garden movement consists of small nonprofits that are really eking by and really struggling to get funding to support 10, 20, maybe 30 schools at a time. And so because they're always struggling, there has never been a nonprofit that's been able to rise and become a national player and to really help support other nonprofits and school districts create best practices across school gardens to operate at a scale where you can really collect data that's really meaningful and that you can show that you're really having an impact on STEM education, nutrition, engagement at school, and all those things. And so I think, because of Mrs. Obama's huge interest in healthy food and, growing the garden at the White House, she's the first person to do that. It made sense, right, for them to get behind a nonprofit that was figuring out how to do it at scale. And that's the point we were at in 2019. And so, when I was selected, it was really exciting, not just for me, but for our entire team and the Las Vegas community. And so then, of course, COVID happened. So that put a little bit of a damper on things because we were here in 200 schools in Clark County at the time, and we were ready to scale across the country in a certain way. But then because of COVID, we weren't allowed into schools, and that forced us to do a pivot. And the pivot is really the reason why we're so successful today. Of course, it didn't feel like that at the time. However, it forced us immediately to go online. And I'm not joking when I say within 2 weeks, we sort of became an ed tech company, meaning that, we lost a lot of our funding because funders, understandably, were like, oh my gosh, all these people are out of work. We have to feed them. We have to house them. So sorry, Green Our Planet, you're not in schools right now. We're giving your money over here. So that was a good lesson to learn, painful but good. And then it forced us, to say to our team, okay, we can furlough all of us. There were 36 of us. We can furlough or we can help teachers. And everybody said, we will help teachers. What do they need? So they went out and said to teachers, how can we help you? And they said, we need to connect kids to the planet, to their school. We need some kind of programming. And so our background is in film. So we had our farmers continue to go out to the school gardens and video themselves doing lessons in the school gardens so the kids could still see their gardens. All the food we grew was donated to food pantries to serve the kids, right, and their families who needed it. And then our hydroponics team was doing the same thing, but in their homes. Our nutrition chefs turned their kitchens into studios, and they started making, cooking lessons and nutrition lessons. And we just pushed them out every week to the teachers. And we literally did that within a 2-week. Now, they were rough. They were not very fancy videos, but they worked, and the teachers were excited. And that was the launch of really what we call our virtual academy. So we went online, and we've been online ever since, which allowed us expand to now, actually, just in the last 9 months, we've expanded to 44 states. So, and this month alone in September, we have just launched another 250 schools. So and then in January, we're doing 350. So by this time next year, we'll be in 1,200 communities. And by 2030, our goal is to be in 10,000 communities. So we're scaling. But a lot of that goes back to the validation that we got from the Obama Foundation, which brought in funders at a level that we hadn't been able to have access to before. So we feel very privileged and lucky to have the Obama Foundation, validate us, essentially.
That pivot sounds tremendous. It sounds like it was a huge lift, to say the least, but it also sounds like you managed it so successfully because, in part, thanks to your background in television production, which is really unique for someone in the world of education and social impact. Can you talk more about how you integrated your experience in filmmaking to enhance the educational offerings, besides going online and being virtual? It sounds like there's a little more to it than that.
Yeah, sure. And I would also like to point out that I find it somewhat ironic that I run one of the largest school garden programs in the country. I can't grow anything, and I do not have an education background. But, let's keep that a secret.
Just between us.
Yeah, just between us. But it is interesting that, because for a while, Kim and I were literally just helping schools because we wanted them to succeed. We didn't have a grand plan for Greener Planet. We started out as a crowdfunding platform, and, teachers and principals went online and started raising money for school gardens here in Vegas. And they kept asking us, can you help us? Can you help us? And since our passion was conservation, or is conservation, we were like, this is the way. If we can help students to fall in love with the planet, then when they grow up, they'll want to protect it. Because if we can forge that connection, going back to the connection piece. But yes, so when you come back to the filmmaking piece, so Kim is originally from Las Vegas. He went to CCSD schools and UNLV. He's a biologist and a master's in anthropology and a 4-time Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. So he's really the mastermind behind the films. I'm not saying I don't have very much to do with them because I'm running Greener Planet, and he now runs Greener Planet Studios. So they develop curriculum, and then every single lesson that we have has a video to go with it. And it works out really, the teachers love it, because here's a problem that we recognized we were solving. We're expecting teachers in general, and especially K-5 teachers, to understand the world of STEM when they're coming from, maybe they studied English in college or maybe history, and then they did their teaching certificate, and suddenly you're saying to them, oh yeah, in grade 4, you have to teach your kids about biomimicry. And they're bio what, right? Because how would they know about biomimicry? And so what we realized is that the number of minutes that students are exposed to in STEM is directly related to the number of students who will then go on and be in STEM fields. So that is just a known fact. So when we looked at the numbers in Nevada, it was 20 minutes a week instead of an hour a day that kids were being exposed to STEM. And so we were like, okay, our holy grail of numbers that we look at is how many minutes have we increased children's exposure to STEM through school gardens or hydroponics or the videos, however it happens. And a big part of it is the teachers say to us, well, we don't understand STEM. We don't understand these concepts. But now with the videos, because we have our farmers or hydroponics experts, they're actually teaching these concepts. and they're usually funny and entertaining, right? Because we come from, commercial TV world. And so we have kids engaged, and it's a 12-minute video. And then the teacher can launch into writing about it or discussing it or out in the garden or whatever piece of it. So the videos are extraordinarily important part of the program.
I don't want to gloss over that pivot to the videos. That is the epitome of preparedness meets opportunity. Not everybody would have been able to navigate that transition and make it what it is today. So I think that deserves so much credit to both you and Kim to be able to take an obstacle like that. I think many people would have folded under that pressure and gone, well, wait, our whole strategy is bunk. And then to be able to go, well, in our back pocket, we got a couple Emmys. Let's bring these out, polish them off, and see how we can put this to work. It's remarkable. I'm curious.
But can I interject for 1 sec? Because I don't want to take all that kudos here. I will say there was a moment, and it was March. It was near St. Patrick's Day. It might have. I think it was March 16th, if that was a Monday back in 2020. And I remember it so well because Kim and I had covered our living room and dining room with big Post-its and spent the whole weekend going, okay, we can furlough and then there was 50 giant sized Post-its, do this, and this. And then that Monday, we had our staff meeting with our 36 staff, and it was our first online, right? Because we're all online now. We're not in our office anymore. Everybody's online. And we said, okay, we're going to have a vote. So do you want to furlough for a few months, right? We all thought it was a few months. Or do you want to figure this out? And seriously, unanimously, the staff were like, oh no, we're going to figure this out. There's no way we could have, because the farmers suddenly were putting themselves on camera. And if you look at any of the videos, they're fantastic. I was like, God, we had no idea we were hiring actors right when we did this. The nutritionists, they were all really good, and they all went for it with gusto. And they, we taught them how to use cameras and all the things. And then we hired the editors to edit them. But it was our staff who really made it happen.
And you're right, which means you've attracted a wonderful team. And it takes that leadership because I think we all can remember where we were at in March of 2020. It was a scary time. We definitely all thought we were dying. And it was really a really difficult, challenging mentally and emotionally. And I think all of us know what that, or can remember what that whole felt like, right? We definitely can. And I'm not saying dying flippantly. I think literally the news was basically telling us we were all going to catch this and likely perish. It was a very scary time. To be able to take yourself out of that hole, pull out the Post-it notes, come up with a plan, and present it and get 36 people to buy in is remarkable. And I'm not going to let you get away with not taking credit for how remarkable that is, Ciara, because it truly is. I am going to reflect on that story, and I hope our listeners do. I love those stories when you're in the hole that you need to, okay, yep, we all get there, right? And we can pull ourselves out. Get the Post-its. As I'm listening, I would love to hear, and maybe it is from a COVID time, maybe not, but I'd love to hear maybe a couple of success stories. I'm sure you have so many, having worked with so many kids. I would love to hear, some little, just heartwarming experiences through this journey.
Absolutely. There are so many. So let me start with maybe a one student story and then open up to some a bigger story. So I remember one of the first farmers markets, and how the farmers markets evolved was, again, like I said, we didn't have this grand strategy, but we suddenly found ourselves in about 50 schools. And we had this amazing teacher, Jenny Davis from Desert Foothills High School. And she was a special needs teacher, and she had 11 students who were very, they were really challenged with living in the world. They had all kinds of very challenging disabilities. And she'd been with them for years. And she came to us and she said, hey, I really would like a garden for my kids. And we said, oh, well, we've only done elementary schools and we worked with these teachers and they created a curriculum. So we don't even have any curriculum for you. And she was like, I just know this is going to work. Can you trust me? Can you help me get the garden? And I was like, yes, of course. Right. So we're like, we made it happen. And we brought in a sponsor called Mentors Foundation. And they sponsored the garden build at Desert Foothills. And Jenny, like, this is such an extraordinary story. Jenny's 11, 12 students, they measure how well the students were doing based on like outbursts or challenges that they're having, right? And so they call them BIPs. And so, she would track them all on a chart. And she started bringing her students out to the garden 1 hour a day, right? And she was going out, obviously, herself as well. And she showed us the graph of her BIPs. It started in September and went down like this till May. And she said 100% she attributed to going out. And I will tell you myself that students who have autism, students with any kind of challenge, really, the gardens are especially beautiful for them, right? Because of all kinds, because getting your fingers in the soil is so good for you, all the things, right? And so what happened then was the teachers in Jenny's pod were like, how come Jenny's so happy? How come Jenny's got a spring in her step? And she didn't even push it on any of the teachers. The next year, the whole entire 300 unit of special needs students were out using the garden. Amazing. And Jenny said, well, the only thing is we don't have a curriculum. And we were like, yeah, you don't. And I said, so how can we help? What can we do to support you? So she said, well, I've heard about this school in Florida and they teach students like ours outdoors all day long. And I'd like to go there and see how they do it. So Mentors Foundation sponsored Jenny to go there for a few weeks. And they sponsored her to write an entire curriculum. But the way she wrote it was so smart. She wrote it as career readiness. So she said, for me and for the teachers in my unit, success means our students can be as independent as possible when they leave school. And she said, what that means is getting a job at Star Nursery, working for a landscaping company if they're able, whatever it is, right? So the curriculum was all about training how to grow food, but how to do composting, how to run a farmer's market, and all of those things. And so the very first farmer's market was at about 8 a.m. in the morning, and it was kind of a misty day. And I remember driving over there and getting out, and I got out. And one of the students, he had autism, and he was really passionate about the garden. So as soon as I got out of the car and arrived, he was like, I'll bring you on a tour. He knew the name of every plant. He could tell you all the benefits, so he was the best tour guide ever. And I was like, this is amazing. And then the story that will stay with me for the rest of my life is this young girl called Desiree, and her parents had arrived, and Desiree's in a wheelchair, and she also couldn't speak, and she didn't have many opportunities at school to participate. And her parents told me that it was beyond their wildest dreams to see her, and she was packing up, food for people and selling it to them. And they said, this has changed everything for her. She said, you have no idea. And for us. And I was like, yeah. And that's the magic of connecting to the planet. There's so much more than STEM education, although I have to talk about that a lot. There is really magic in it, and I've seen that in so many ways with all kinds of students. So that's one story. And then the other story, I think, the farmers markets, but the last one last April, for me, I just find it so amazing that there were 600 students. I think they arrived in downtown Summerlin on their yellow buses, and they get off and they've got all their vegetables and their things. And there's a mariachi band from K.O. Knutson. They're amazing. And they're playing their music, and the students are getting off. And and we have a green carpet or a red carpet, depending. And the students, you hear them say, wow, we're like rock stars. And that's our goal. Our goal is we want all of these kids to feel like rock stars, and they feel like rock stars, and they get out there and you'll see them. I don't know if you've seen the video. I'll send you the link to the farmers market video. But the students, what we want them to walk away with from that day is feeling empowered. I can do anything. I can run a business. I did this. I was only 10, 12, 14, whatever age they were. I made money for my school. You know, you hear them in the video. They're like talking about, yeah, it takes teamwork and, you know, we can do this. And one girl said, I think it's so great to think that the food we're selling today are going to be people's dinner tonight. Isn't that great? It's like, that is so great. And so that's, again, like magic, you know? And so, and that is what education should be all about. That joy that you see at the market and the empowerment. And so many of these students come from backgrounds where they, you know, they have food insecurity. They don't always have enough food to eat. And yet here they are selling fresh organic food to their local community. So how does that not, you know, change their life in some profound way when that happens to you at age 10?
I also wonder if there's this sense of empowerment from a place of food insecurity. I know how to solve it because I know how to grow my food. As a young child, to be fearful of food and there's a lack of food, and now it's I know how to grow food. I know I can do this. That is just a remarkable gift you're giving to these kids. It's making me misty, this whole conversation. I'm so excited by what you guys are doing. This is truly what education is supposed to be.
I think you've made the case that every school, every classroom should have a garden. Done. Sold. If a garden is not possible, or maybe someone's looking for other options, right? Not just exclusively gardens. What advice would you give to others who are passionate about creating this type of positive change and this type of engagement with students and education in their communities or in the world? What would you tell them based on your experiences, whether it's a garden or something else?
I believe, and this is just my fundamental belief, I fundamentally believe that we can transform the world through beauty. That's what I try and do in my job at Greener Planet. Whether it's building a beautiful garden, but it can also be beautiful art in a school. I believe that when students walk into a school that feels beautiful to them, when they have beautiful food, they feel worthy, right? That's when we stick students in schools that look like prisons, when we feed them crappy food that makes them feel crap. I mean, why would we expect any other outcome but that they wouldn't be their best selves?
When they're judged solely off of test results. And that is how we summarize them and their value and path forward.
Right. And only certain kids can do well on tests, right? And it's the same kind of mind that does well in tests all the time. Yeah, so all of those things. I mean, bringing beauty into the classroom, if I was a teacher, that's what I would be very focused on. You know, even building relationships, you know, pods of kids in a classroom, making sure that there's beauty in the connections and the relationships and being very mindful of that.
As we wrap up our conversation, could you share some exciting plans or projects? Where does Greener Planet go next? Besides every classroom.
Every classroom, every school. I think a goal that's really got me fired up is 1,000 markets, it's farmers markets run by students by 2026. So by 2026, we'll be in 3,600 communities, and there's no reason that we can't have 1,000 farmers markets. But the way we want to do it is we want it all to happen during Earth Week so that the students feel like they're all building towards this together, whether they're in Alaska or Florida or Vegas or, you know, wherever, LA, that they all feel like, oh, we're all doing this together all across the country. And in some way, you know, you like to feel that food justice, the work we do through school gardens and hydroponics laboratories is contributing in a positive way to building a democracy that works, where there's civil engagement, where people can exist and where students exist, you know, with their differences and feeling seen and heard. And I believe that the values you need to have for a successful school garden program are the same values that contribute to that vibrant democracy.
Where can people find you? Where can we find a farmer's market near us? Where can we find schools that are doing this with their students?
Okay, that's a great question. So if you go onto our website and you look under our programs tab, you'll see under Garden Connect and Hydro Connect, there's a map. So you can just scroll down and you can hone in on your area. There is a giant farmers market coming up on October 25th. So next month, and it will be in the Clark County Government Building here in Las Vegas. But there will be another farmers market in Vegas in April. There'll be two in Henderson, and we're planning a farmers market for Reno in April.
Where can people find you? Where can we find a farmer's market near us? Where can we find schools that are doing this with their students?
Okay, that's a great question. So if you go onto our website and you look under our programs tab, you'll see under Garden Connect and Hydro Connect, there's a map. So you can just scroll down and you can hone in on your area. There is a giant farmers market coming up on October 25th. So next month, and it will be in the Clark County Government Building here in Las Vegas. But there will be another farmers market in Vegas in April. There'll be two in Henderson, and we're planning a farmers market for Reno in April.
If parents are listening and they're thinking, like I am, how do I get my school involved in this? How do we get this in? What would that look like? What's
so
that
on our
pathway?
website, here's some really good important news that I need to say. Right now, we have enough funding from the state of Nevada, thanks to Governor Lombardo, to put a hydroponics program in 400 schools in Nevada. So we've already done a little over 200. So if your school, your child's school wants one, if you go onto our website, it has the blurb about us, and then it's like there's a PDF, and you can click through that to apply, or just click the contact at the very top and say, hey, my kid's school in Reno, in Carson City, wherever, wants a hydroponics program. Yep. So the state has gotten behind it in a very big way, and kudos to the legislators who helped make that happen.
Huge kudos. Oh, I'm very excited. I'm sure you're going to be getting quite a few requests.
Kudos to you. You are a beautiful human, adding a lot of beauty to the world. Thank you for being here with us and for sharing this. This was amazing, Ciara of Green Our Planet.
This overview is for informational purposes only. We might include some projections, and those should not be relied upon for the purpose of investing. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and any investments we mention are meant for accredited investors only. And any offer can only be considered upon review of a prospectus and relevant offering documentation. So please keep this in mind as we move through this overview, and remember that these are our opinions only.